I'm pissed.
That was Alberta's premier in early November, reacting to the federal government's emissions cap on oil and gas production. That cap will require companies to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 35% below 2019 levels within 6 years. Danielle Smith is calling it a federal intrusion on Alberta's constitutional rights and is using the Sovereignty Act to push back. But how would that work? If the federal government makes a move that the provincial government thinks is unconstitutional or could potentially harm Alberta's interests, the provincial government would make a motion. The one that's on the table right now would empower the Alberta government to take some of the following steps: ordering provincial agencies such as the Alberta Energy Regulator not to enforce the emissions cap, launch a court challenge against the emissions cap, declare oil and gas facilities as essential infrastructure and stop trespassers from entering, including federal employees. Leave it up to the province, not oil and gas companies, to share emissions data with the feds. The Premier has also mused about collecting oil and gas instead of resource royalties and having the government sell it internationally. But does the Alberta government have the power to do all these things? That's what we're about to find out. Canadian courts have ruled that protecting the environment is federal jurisdiction, and there are times when it can limit resource extraction to do that.
Alberta has the power to make laws within its own jurisdiction, but it doesn't have the power to stop federal laws that are valid constitutional laws.
The federal environment minister says it would be illegal for companies to stop reporting their emissions data.
It's more irresponsible behavior by the Premier of Alberta, who refused to recognize the threat posed by climate change to Canadians and to Albertans.
But Alberta's environment minister says Guilbeault isn't being truthful about the effects of the emissions cap.
I can tell you that Minister Guilbeault is lying. He is lying because he has to lie, because if he says anything else, he knows what we know, which is that his oil and gas production cap will be found unconstitutional.
And stuck in the middle of all of this are oil and gas companies, who say they weren't properly consulted on the emissions cap or on Alberta's plans to push back.
And instead, what we're doing is just fighting and fighting and fighting, and the governments will be going to court. And that'll take years, and the lawyers get rich, and the companies really don't know what the rules are, which is harmful to investment and jobs and taxes and royalties.
Masson says it would be impractical for the province to try and move and sell unrefined oil by itself. And he says corporations are risk averse. They're not going to break federal laws or bar inspectors from their property. Masson says all of this uncertainty is like a black cloud hanging over the industry right now. The Premier says she is going to move forward with a legal challenge of this cap. And as for other moves that she might make, we'll have to see what she does once the cap is in place. Janet French, CBC News, Edmonton.